Hello and good morning. Joe Justice here with the Kanawha Valley Hustlers podcast, and I am greeted today by Margaret Ann O'Neal. She is the president of the United Way of Central West Virginia, and I want to thank you, Margaret Ann, for being with me today. And I want to ask you the same thing I ask everybody when they join me on the Kanawha Valley Hustlers. What's your hustle?
Well, I love being called a hustler for one thing. That's kind of my hustle is raising money, and so for whomever or whatever the cause, and people have said they cross the street to keep from talking to me because they're pretty sure I'm going to have my hand out for something. My current hustle is the United Way of Central West Virginia, which is quite an honor to raise money for.
I bet. Well, tell me a little bit about, for anybody that's not familiar, what does the United Way do?
Well, we're a nonprofit organization and really two segments. And so we fund other nonprofits that apply to us through their very specific programs. So health, education, financial stability, and the safety nets that most people are familiar with, the things that often catch us through crisis, like the Red Cross and the Salvation Army and shelters, etc. And so we fund them based on their request for that programming, and they have to be in our footprint. So we're Kanawha, Putnam, Boone, Logan, Clay, and Braxton. And then we do work directly out of our office, such as our Equal Fitting Shoe Fund, where we buy shoes for kids within the school system at the request of a teacher or counselor. So very direct and specific, need-based with our Equal Fitting Shoe Fund. Last year, about 1,200 pairs of shoes went out our door to kiddos across our footprint. And then we operate West Virginia 211, which is West Virginia's information and referral network. And, we encourage any of your audience that may have challenges. If you think 211 is information like 411, but not emergent, right? So it's your personal emergency. Maybe your power's been disconnected for some reason, or you need to locate a good child care facility, or you need to know where the health department is, or you need to know where to get a vaccine. You can call 211 from anywhere in West Virginia, and you're going to get a real person in a United Way office across the state that's going to try to direct you to services closest to you for what you need at that particular moment.
Oh, that is very cool. I was not aware of that service. Okay.
211 is awesome. The United Ways took over governance in 2019, so timing is everything. In 2020, our calls went up about 400% due to COVID, and have really kind of maintained that increased percentage, I think, for kind of post-COVID things, right? People are still challenged a little out of the pandemic, and so we're still seeing a lot of calls for a lot of help, and we're happy to do it.
Sure. So, and now then the 211, that's for, you say things like if you need like a homeschooler or
so
vaccines.
Not so much, vaccine, not so much homeschooler. It would be resources that we have.
Okay.
So if you think food pantries,
okay.
Assistance for utility or rental help. A lot of folks still just haven't got quite caught up if they missed months of paychecks. Yep. Lots of calls about how to access housing or centralized assessment for those who may be close to eviction or have already experienced eviction. We work closely with case managers and healthcare facilities because, the social determinants often relate back to the social ills and challenges that people have. And so we want to make sure people are fed and people have access to resources that may be available to them. And so 211 is that gatherer of resources.
Gotcha.
By zip code. So that's how we roll, Joe.
Okay.
Is if we know your zip code, that's the first thing we ask you. And then after that, we kind of know where you are so that we can direct you to what's closest. We don't want people to have to travel miles and miles if there's something closer to them that meets their need.
That's great. And tell me, Margaret, how does the United Way of Central West Virginia relate to, I'm sure that there's an international United Way organization, right? So how are they interconnected and how do they link together?
It's a great question. So it's United Way Worldwide is our parent umbrella, if you will, and we are worldwide. You would not be unusual to be watching a disaster in another part of the world and see that United Way active in that disaster. So it's what we've been doing for a long time here locally as well. And so in West Virginia, there are 12 of us fighting the good fight all over West Virginia, about 1,600 worldwide, and we're a member of that organization. So people say to me a lot, how much is, where's that money go and where's the money go for a donor? And, we're happy to say that we pay 1% of what we raise to the United Way Worldwide for that membership. And that gives us access to the most recognized nonprofit brand in the world. And you and I were talking about that. That brand is super important. And so, it's lots of marketing training, lots of administrative and governance training. They hold our hands through, things that might be difficult like COVID, where we were able to receive some direct funding from them. But typically, we run autonomously in the communities that we serve, and so that's why in West Virginia, we try to cover from both panhandles all the way to the south and all points in between.
And now, I'm sure that there are specific needs in West Virginia, especially Appalachian kind of in general. What's the typical kind of needs that are kind of unique to the region?
Well, I still think we see so many things related to substance use disorder in West Virginia. And so I won't say there aren't other states who are experiencing that, but that does set us apart a little bit because we had a little bit of generational poverty before that. And that's just kind of extended the challenges that some of our more rural and folks that don't have access to a lot of resources are really struggling with that. And my personal, the Margaret answer to that question is we have a big education problem. And although we love the Department of Education and partner with them often and schools across the state, it's really hard for kids to learn and pay attention when they're hungry, or they may have on 3 days of the same clothes, or they may be real uncertain of their living conditions when they get home. So, the marriage for United Ways and education is how can we support those teachers and educators to take a little of the burden off of them for their basic needs for their students. And so we work closely with their counselors. They call us often. Sometimes we can get the water turned back on. Sometimes we can always find food. We can always find food in 2023. People should not be hungry, especially little people. And so, those challenges are greatly related. People, I think, look for hope in weird ways when they don't have any, and drugs and alcohol and others. I say freely my addiction is Diet Coke, and if you were looking in my car, you would see all levels of empty bottles in the front seat of my car. So we just have to pay attention to what we talked about. We had this conversation last week with somebody. I value their knowledge, and he said, we tend to want to get to the root cause, and so it's great to put Band-Aids on, and we support a lot of things that can support people in the moment. But for us, it's, how can we get to the root cause? And so we just recently introduced the United Way mobile market. So we're starting a grocery store on wheels, thanks to our partnership with KRT. So it's ready now to go to rehab, and it's hopefully will be back out in early 2024 to serve the needs of people who can't get to a grocery store in their community.
Oh, that's great. I know that there's certain locations it's really hard to get to grocery stores, especially in West Virginia. So that's excellent. And I was wanting to know, is there, when it comes to the kind of services that you're providing, and when people hear about United Way, what's the easiest way for people to join in, to help out, to contribute, to be part of United Way's effort and find out what United Way's up to? Sure.
Well, we'd love for you to come visit. That's the easiest way. On any given day, you can stand in our lobby and get a pretty good dose of all the different aspects of service that we provide to people in our community. I think the thing I love the most is, we joke that we get to see it all. We get to talk to people who really, really need something right now in an imminent kind of way, and then we get to talk to donors who have the ability to support us in large capacities and everything in between. But we stand on it's time, talent, and treasure, right? And so sometimes you don't want to give me your treasure until you spend a little time with us. And we have great volunteers. There's always something to do. We're always stuffing something or filing something, or we do this thing called Dancing with the Stars. So there's lots of glitter if that's your thing and you want to help decorate. We love those people who want to come in and help us with our special events, and then you get to know us and you get to trust us, and then you may decide that treasure is important for you to share with us. But we love people to volunteer and learn more about what we do. Look us up. We're on Facebook a lot. We were talking about how do you share your message with people, and we do try to hustle that up every way we can. But the easiest way is to come and meet us, right? Talk to us, ask the hard questions. We'll do the best we can to answer them. We want to be 100% transparent with people. We're in an era where donor dollars are harder to come by and mean more to people than they ever had before. And so it's really important, if you choose or decide that you want to figure out where that donor dollar should go, come visit, and we'd love to share with you not only what we do, but what our program partners do as well.
Great. And as we're kind of coming to the close here, I want to talk to you a little bit. You mentioned that you have a little bit of an entrepreneurial background as a pumpkin farmer. Is that right?
It's one of those unknown facts about Margaret O'Neal that now you know.
Yeah,
right?
Tell me a little bit about pumpkin farming. This is pretty timely because it's October, so I want to hear about pumpkin farming.
This was big season back in the day. So it's a short, not funny story. I grew up on a farm, was happy there. That was pigs and cows, horses, farming. As I got older and got married and moved off the farm, I'm an only child, so my dad let a lot of the livestock go, and they gardened. And so got married and came back to the farm, and came home one day from my real job, and my husband and my dad were waiting to inform me that they had this wonderful idea on how we were going to make all this money. You've heard this before, right?
Yep.
And so I'm like, great, what is it? And they're like, we're going to sell pumpkins. And I'm like, where are we going to get them? They're like, oh, we're going to grow them. And so sure enough, for the better part of 5 years, we grew anywhere from 100,000 to 150,000 pumpkins.
Wow.
And we sold them mostly wholesale to folks around southern West Virginia, and learned a lot of hard lessons about being an entrepreneur, and that, you know, it's 24/7, 365, and it's super hard work, and that anybody that you know that's successful, you can bet your bottom dollar there was a lot of days that they didn't think they would be. And, you know, so when I lost my dad, when my dad died, you know, we lost our hired help and made other choices in life, but it was a great time. And, you know, we were in the New River Gorge area. I grew up in Oak Hill in Fayette County, so it was a great place to grow up. And being a pumpkin farmer is you could win money on that. What's the unknown trivia question about Margaret O'Neal? And I still say my fingers doesn't do right, because that's how you plant pumpkin seeds, is with your finger. Yeah, and that was my job. And so that was every day when I would come home, I'd go plant pumpkin seeds. And so I'll end with that. But my dad died at the end of September, very suddenly, and he and my husband had been shooting for the world record pumpkin. And so in my yard, not in the farm part, but in my yard, they had been nursing this giant pumpkin to try to get to the world's largest, which it did not, but it was about 600 pounds when he died. And I made them bring it to the funeral home. So my dad's casket and the giant pumpkin at the end, and everybody knew what that was about. So it was a good time.
Incredible. Margaret, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
With you, Joe. Now I'm a hustler.
Now you're Kanawha Valley Hustler. We'll have to get you the official T-shirt.
Oh, I want that.
All right, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. And from me, Joe Justice, a Kanawha Valley Hustler, I want to remind you to hustle hard, hustle smart, and hustle with a smile.